Hey, what's up? It's Breyonna. So Colourpop just sent me over the Astrology Collection, and I only have 3 of the palettes, but I just wanted to show you guys which ones I have before we kind of jump into things. And like this one right here called Never Taurus Apart, like oh my gosh, like this one's just so pretty. And maybe it's because I'm a Taurus and that's kind of why I'm vibing with it, but honestly I think it's just because it has green in it, and you guys know how I feel about green. But this green matte right here just looks absolutely stunning and just like mossy and just like totally my vibe. The next palette I have is called Like a Virgo. I feel like a lot of people are going to really like this one for everyday because it's kind of like a mauvey brown kind of vibe. And then the last one that I have is called Head Capricorn in Charge. And don't get me wrong, like I really like this one, but it kind of reminds me of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry palette, but like the cool tone vibe of it. Like I could see this one being like one of those palettes I just pop in my purse when I'm on the go, because these are like my kind of neutral colors, you know, kind of like grayish, smoky kind of colors. So I just prime my eyes, but the first shade I'm going to be going in with out of the palette is this warm brown matte shade. And I'm just going to take the tiniest amount on this Morphe M456 brush. I will say though, it is a little bit kind of like kickbacky in the pan. Not terrible, but you just want to be a little bit careful when dipping in. And again, this brush from Morphe is kind of like a smaller little like pinch blending brush. But I'm just going to be popping it in the inner half of the eye, and that's so pigmented. I've used these 4-pan, I guess you could call them a quad, eyeshadow palettes out of the Ice Cream collection, and I was just really into those. So if you'd like to see more looks using like the quads, I did like a full series using those on my channel. But I'm just going to be blending this upwards towards my brow, and like, oh, like that is just blending out so easy. Like literally this shade is taking like 0 effort to work with. And I am gonna do a second layer. I mean, just look at that. And then again, I'm just going to do little circular motions to buff it out. And I am going to be leaving this outer half blank for right now because we are going to be applying the other matte there in a second. So when I was doing the other eye off camera, I noticed that it kind of got like chunky right here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it just kind of like oxidized. I don't know if my eye primer wasn't dry or something, but I mean, I waited like 10 minutes before I applied my shadow after applying my eye primer because I'm one of those people, I just like to eat in between doing things. But yeah, like on this eye, it didn't do it, just on this eye. So I don't know what is up, but I'm going to try to like even it out, going in with a little bit more. Just really like building it up. I will say like this matte is extremely buildable. Like it's pigmented and buildable. It's like a weird combination because the more that you like apply it, it builds up, but it also gets deeper than it looks like in the pan. Like the first layer, it looks kind of like it does in the pan. The second layer is like true pigmentation to the pan, and then the third layer is richer. And that's kind of something I really like about this shade so far, is that it's very versatile. Because sometimes with quads, you know, only having 4 shades, they're just very limiting. So when shades act like this, it's really nice. Because then you can do more looks with the palette. I don't know, the more that I look at it, the brown is just a little bit on the uneven side. Like, it's not terrible. It's just not where I would want it to be. You can kind of see, like, over in here, too, it just looks a little chunky. Again, not terrible. But I'm just really used to their browns being, like, super smooth. Okay, so now let's go in with the shade that I am the most excited for out of this palette, and that is this green right here. And this one's called Trust Me. Oh, also, I forgot to say, but the brown shade, I forgot that the quads had names, but this shade right here is called Like a Bull. I'm surprised that they didn't name the green Like a Bull, but I guess the brown is kind of like more like bull kind of colored. But I don't know, because this, you know, like the green right here has a little Taurus symbol in it. But I'm just going to be taking this shade on this brush from Morphe. It's an M433. And again, like the green in here too does have some kickback. But, ooh, this shade though, like that just looks like it's gonna be like my kind of green. Like it's just so smoky and like sultry. And it almost has like that mossy kind of look to it too. And I'm just gonna be taking this in the outer part of my crease. And you see, it's like grabbing. Kind of weird. But dang, like this shade is pigmented. Like, that's one thing I really like about the quads, is that they just have a ton of pigment. So I'm just going to go in with a little bit more on my brush. Yeah, you can kind of see it's just a little uneven. It's not terrible. But I feel like if we do maybe a 3rd layer, it'll even out. Oh yeah. So this is one of those shades you just have to kind of build up a little bit. once you do, it looks really nice. And I'm also going to take whatever's left and kind of like blend it into that brown. One thing I will note though is the green in the pan looks a little bit lighter than it does when applied. Like it is a very, very smoky and deep kind of green. I was not expecting it to look this deep. And I'm just going to take a little bit more on my brush and pack it on the outer third of my lid. You know, for this shade being so like intense, it actually doesn't have any fallout to it, which really does surprise me because sometimes with these really pigmented shades, like they just kind of like trickle down a little bit. And this one, I mean, I have just like one little flake right here and that's it. But I'm actually going to take more of the green on this brush to layer into the brown. Yeah, this is one of those shades you really just have to kind of like layer up. I'm going to take a little bit more of that brown on the brush that we applied the brown with and go right over the edge between the two colors and do these little back and forths. So now let's cut the crease. So I'm just going to go in with my Anastasia eye primer and I just put like a tiny amount on the back of my hand. I'm just going to load up my little liner brush. This is a Sigma E11. And I'm just going to follow right above my natural crease. I don't know, I'm kind of debating on doing like a liner accent on the outer edge. But I don't know, I kind of like the smoky vibe that we have going on. And I don't really want to take away from that. And I'm just going to take a little bit more on this ABH number 18 little flat concealer brush. And just fill in everything underneath of that line, doing a tapping motion. Now, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I had my hand on my face for like 30 seconds, you know, like reading something, and I got like this big red mark and it's driving me nuts. Like my skin is just so sensitive. But let's kind of like finesse this outer edge right here, and ooh, my hair is kind of acting up. But I'm going to take a little bit of that green Trust Me shade on this small little shader brush from Morphe. And I'm going to pack it right on that line. Like literally like pressing it in. I'm not gonna lie, I am really excited to see how these shimmers look because sometimes Colourpop shimmers are like super poppin' and then other ones are a little bit more on the wearable side. But I don't know, I have like a feeling that these ones are gonna be like super like extra when applied. But I'm first gonna go in with the deeper one, and this one's kind of like a brownish gold with like green in it. It's a very interesting shade. And this one's called The Good Life. Ooh, that feels like really creamy in the pan. And also, if you've never tried out these quads before, you just get so much product in these. Like, you can see, like, they're just really deep. It has clear casing to it, but I mean, just look at that. I feel like not a lot of people talk about that, but I feel like you just get a lot of bang for your buck with how much you get in here. But I'm just going to be taking this shade dry on a little shader brush. And, ooh, baby. Oh, that is pretty. You see what I mean though? It's kind of like a greenish gold and it has like a little bit of like a warm brown in it. Man, that's a pretty color. Just, oh, like just drench me in this shade because it is just absolutely stunning. This is definitely like a little mini fall palette. But I'm just going to take a little bit more on my brush and get it really up close to that cut crease. I am going to be leaving the inner fourth blank. Or inner third, I guess, right now. Wow, that is just so extra. It's really pigmented too. So now for the rest of the lid, I'm just going to go in with the other shimmer in the palette, and this one's called Rich Rich, and it's kind of like one of those golds that just has a very subtle green hue to it. Again, it's not like a green gold or a gold with a lot of green to it. It's just like very, very minimal. But I'm just going to be taking it on a different flat shader brush. Again, dry, not dampened. Again, like this shade just feels like very like creamy and buttery in the pan. But let's see how it looks when applied. Ooh, honestly, I feel like this shade would make a really pretty highlighter. Just because it's kind of like a lighter gold, but you can kind of see that it has that little green tinge to it when it's blended into the other shimmer. I'm just kind of like blending the two together using these little tapping motions. I am going to go in with a second layer. And again, this one's kind of more of like a wet metallic kind of shimmer. It's still fairly blinding. It's just not like glittery. So I just applied my face, but let's do the lower lash line. And again, I'm just going to copy what we did in the crease, kind of like down here, just to kind of do like the matchy-matchy kind of thing. So I'm first just going to go in with that dark green shade on this teeny tiny little shader brush from the Morphe Madison Beer collection. And I'm just going to run it in the outer half. You see what I mean? No, like this shade's just very pigmented. Also, I did fake freckles today, or faux freckles, however you want to say it, and I am obsessed. Like lately I've been kind of doing it more, but today I did like 2 layers of them and like waited for the second layer to dry. And just let me tell you, I think they look so freaking cute. Now I'm just going to take the brown shade on this little brush from Anastasia. This is a A14. And then last but not least, for the inner corner highlight, I'm just going to go back in with that rich shade that we used on the lid, the goldish kind of green kind of color. And I'm just going to be taking it on this pencil brush from Colourpop. It's an E28. Ooh, I have like a cat hair on my lip, and it, like, I don't know if you guys have pets, but like her hair is like long and it gets everywhere. Like it's almost as bad as mine. Like my hair is so long, like it just gets tangled up into everything. But hers is like, you barely see it and it's just like all over it. Just, oh, it's super frustrating. Like her hair just gets everywhere. Like I'll just be petting her and it kind of like floats up. Even though I brush her, I don't know what happens, but it gets like, you know, I'll put like a face cream on, I didn't even touch her, and then it, like somehow I get like a random hair in there. I wash my face, I get like a cat hair on my face. It's just like, ugh. Like I don't know if you have pets, but her hair is like super long. Like I've never had a long haired cat other than Winnie. That is such a pretty inner corner highlight though. I am gonna go in with a second layer. Oh yeah, she's pretty. I will say I wish it was just a little bit more blinding, but you know, I think I can work with that. Yeah, I am nosy. Normally I don't apply my shimmers wet anymore, but let's just see what happens. Ooh. Apply this one wet after you apply it dry, because let me tell you, like that just made like a huge difference. But seriously, like this shade would look amazing as a highlighter too, especially if you like more like greenish gold, kind of like unique kind of colors for highlighter. I think you'd really like this one. So here's the finish look. It definitely screams fall vibes, but I kind of say like overall, I would say that this is an okay palette. I wouldn't say it's like my new favorite Colourpop palette, nor would I say it's like the worst thing ever. Like I would use this again, but keep in mind if you're a beginner, you might struggle with this one a little bit, especially with the mattes in here. Because again, this brown one that I used on the first eye, it looked completely fine. I just applied it, it was super pigmented, did a couple circles, and it was ready to go. But on the other eye, it kind of like oxidized and got a little bit funky and kind of just hard to blend almost in a way. Like it gave me like this really dark little dot and it took me a little bit to blend it out, but again, at the end of the day, I think it blended out beautifully. And this green shade right here, now this one was a little bit chunky when I first applied it, but again, after like working with it a little bit, it looks really nice, and I thought I got a really good eye look with both of the mattes. It's just, to me, the mattes in here have that formula that you just have to kind of work with and finesse a little bit, and if you don't want to take the time to do so, you probably won't like the mattes in here. But the shimmers in here are definitely where it's at. Like, they are just so blinding and beautiful. Like, seriously, I wish that Colourpop would include this formula with more of their palettes, because it's just so eye-catching, and not only is it like creamy and pigmented, but it just has like the most beautiful shine to it. I'm just gonna swatch these just to show you guys like what they look like swatched. So here is the green one, and then here is the gold. And I mean, they just have like this buttery texture. They almost feel like a Super Shock shadow. I know they're not, but they just kind of have like that creaminess to them. They're not like bouncy, they just have like a creamy kind of consistency. But I mean, just look at how pretty that is. I feel like this color story is just going to be perfect going into fall, but again, it's one of those palettes, if you're okay with working with it, I think you could get some really pretty looks with it. But yeah, so in the comments down below, let me know what you think about this look, and also let me know which palette I should use next. But as always though, before you go, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, and also give this video a like. And if you'd like to check me out over on Instagram or TikTok, it's at Breyonna as well. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!